You don't want to miss any one of these series. There is four in total. The first one is Will You Open My Heart? Laying Yourself Down. Week number two is You Hurt Me and Have a Good Talk. Number three is Feed Your Mind. And Are You Spicy? Oh, that's a good one. And then week number four, we end with a bang, and it's called Being One Flesh. How we fuse with not only mental intimacy, emotionally, but physical intimacy. You don't want to miss any one of these talks. So tune in, watch all four, and be blessed. It's good to be here again on this lovely platform called Character Building for Eternity. International Prayer Ministry. I am totally enjoying myself on this platform and this series, and I hope you are too. This series has come to an end. Oh my, this is the fourth and the last of this series today, and this is a bittersweet for me, I will say. This is about perfecting your marriage through the sanctuary, and for the past 3 weeks, now we're on the fourth week. I just want to say that I have to give this disclaimer every time I do this video that this series is really based on somebody else's series, which is Ivor Mayer's, and I believe it's called Marriage in the Sanctuary. I have put the link below so you can watch that original in its entirety. It is his concept, but I loved it so much, and I decided to adopt it for myself and my relationship, that I decided to paraphrase what he says, give examples. I use quotes. I do quote him sometimes, and I also use my own inspirations that God has given me. All right, so it's really a collage of everything. All right, just wanted to put that disclaimer out. And the more I study this series, the more I learn about what relationships is all about. Boy, I'm learning a lot. I really am. So just a quick commercial is that I've got the journals done. I did the marriage journal. I just did the dating journal. And so you'll hear about it in the commercial later on and at the end of this clip. So just so you know, I didn't say it before, but I will say it now. It's a digital download, and you digitally download on your computer or laptop, and you don't have to print it, but open it up every day and get your new question. You can do one question a day because it is 365 questions, or you could double it up and do two questions a day, one in the morning or at lunch and one in the evening before bed, and get it done in 6 months. It's really up to you. You can keep it on down on digital, or you could print it. It doesn't matter. And so all four are available. All the links are below. And so let us begin for the topic of today. All right. So we start off with the scripture. I'll just talk with the scripture. The scripture is Psalm 77, verse 13. The first line says, Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Thy way, the salvation is in the sanctuary. The marriage is in the sanctuary. The health message is in the sanctuary. Thy way, O Lord, is in the sanctuary. And so we've talked about the gate, and then we talked about all the pieces of the furniture. The gate is the heart to Jesus, the way, his heart to your heart. Connect your heart to his. He is the way, he is the door to your heart. So all communications are at the gate. It starts with a heartfelt intimacy that you are developing with him. And then you move to the first piece of furniture, sacrificing yourself. So right after forgiveness with the laver, with each other, which you're going to have to do on a regular basis, guys, then you go to communication, which is the show bed. You need to communicate with each other. You need to communicate with Jesus. Every day you got to open his word. You got to read the Bible. That's how he communicates with you. That's one of the main ways. There's many other ways, but you got to read to know him. And how are you going to know your partner if you don't communicate with him or her?
how you going to know your partner? And then you go to the candlestick, and the candlestick is emotional intimacy, which a lot of people are having issues with. The other three pieces of furniture, emotional intimacy is the mind. You go into the altar of incest, which is passion, which is fire, which is sexual intimacy, the physical, and then behind the curtain is a whole new level of a relationship. Okay, so perfect your marriage through the sanctuary, and we started at the gate. All right, and this is where you enter into your relationship with Jesus and into your relationship with your partner. I just talked about these 6 pieces of furniture. They show a cross starting at the bottom and going to the top. And your goal is to get to the top of this relationship. The first 2 pieces are paramount. If you don't go through self-sacrificing and forgiveness on a regular basis, the next level, which the next three pieces of furniture, ain't happening. It's not happening. And if those 3 pieces of furniture, which is communication, emotional intimacy, and physical intimacy, if those 3 pieces aren't humming, then the last level of the Ark of the Covenant is not going to happen. And so we have 3 major levels of marriage, and every level is a higher level, a closer level than ever before. You want to get to the pinnacle of your marriage. Non-sexual, but touching, kissing, holding, hugging, all this is extremely important, especially for a woman. All right, you got to rev that engine, you got to get it ready. I mentioned last week that women are like crock pots, men are like microwaves. You could just turn it on anytime, but a crock pot, it takes hours to cook and get things ready. And you got to learn to have an environment for this. So let me just stop share there. And so we need to understand that this piece of the incense, before we get to the ark, all these pieces of furniture are interconnected. They work as a system, just like your body works harmlessly together within harmony. Everything is humming, the blood vessels, the muscles are working, the nerves, the organs, everything is doing its part and all at the same time. Well, these pieces of furniture, they all need to work together at the same time. And that's where the Ark of the Covenant comes in. It's all pieces working together at the same time. Worldly sex is lustful. You want it, you can get it, and you can get it from anyone. I mean, I was out with my loved one, and we went out for dinner. Okay, we went to a vegan restaurant. He wanted to go and get a few things, and after all that, I was like, I'm hungry. So there was a vegan restaurant. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that restaurant. We went there years ago. So we went in, and turns out that I love sitting by the window because you see the world go by, right? And there was a lady, I don't know what she was wearing, but she wasn't wearing much. All right, she wasn't wearing very much. Clothes aren't clothes anymore. And so and there was quite a few people that were scanty, and so it's everywhere, right? And men can get a lot just from going outside. So it's very lustful out there. It's a battle out there, because there's so much women competing with, show me type of body, see what I've got, and they want that attraction. They want, right? They want to be looked upon, and so sex is everywhere. Sensualization is everywhere. With not only with the clothes, but with the movies and with the internet and with Instagram, it's everywhere. TikTok. But God created passion, um, and love making for marriage, and it's been distorted. Okay, so I really don't like to say the word sex. I like to say love making or making love, because that is the glue that sticks the marriage. All right, that's what keeps it sticky. All right, and that is what we need, is to keep the marriage sticky. And you do that um, by starting the day right. You got to start the day right. If you don't start the day right, we're in trouble. So uh, there was a survey, and the survey was that women primarily, mostly, file for divorce. And out of Christian marriages, about 25% of divorces, which is less than the world's percentage. I think the percentage with the world is like 50% or something like that. But the top three reasons why women particularly file for divorce is they say, oh, husbands, they're not supportive. They're not supportive of my needs. They're not supportive of my career. I don't feel the support at home. They're not supported with the kids. And emotionally, they check out. Okay. And so if you're checking out emotionally, well, what's going to happen physically? Because these pieces of furniture is like a chain, right? You can't just jump to the physical and totally ignore emotional intimacy. You can't ignore communication. You can't ignore forgiveness, and you can't ignore self-sacrificing and laying yourself down. You can't ignore that, and having your heart connected to Jesus, right? Another reason is they take more of their emotional responsibility. They don't have enough emotional support. Notice I say the word emotion a lot today, because that is really the key to physical. Okay. And a third reason is not willing to put up with consistent, unacceptable behavior. They're not willing to put up behavior that is not changing. It's interesting. This was mentioned before. I don't know who mentioned it, but it's a quote. It's been around. When men marry their wife, they're hoping she don't change, right? They love her the way she is. They dated her, they courted her, she's good. But when women marry, they're hoping that he will change. You ever heard that phrase before? Right? They're hoping that he will change, right? And if these changes are not taking place year after year after year, it can build up some emotional stress, all right? And that will be a problem. In the same way, husbands should love wives as their own bodies. A man who loves his wife loves himself. How do you love your wife? And we're not talking about love making. It starts at the beginning of the day, unless you're doing it in the morning, but it starts with the stimulation of the mind, and it starts with self-service. It starts with communication, right? Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for the church. Walk in love as Christ walked in love. And so love making principles, it must be private. It's not to be shared. It must be safe. It must be consensual. Two must agree, and it must not break your personal vows or values or spiritual values, because lovemaking is spiritual, by the way. Sex is sacred, all right? And acts must be legal, of course, and you must do it within each other's boundaries, because some positions you may not be comfortable with, or some things that are not even things that, other people may do, you may not be comfortable with, right? And so you want to, surprisingly, you want to sustain purity even in your marriage, right? And intimacy, like I said, it's physical, it's emotional, it's mental, it's spiritual, it's relational. So ground rules are neat to help you stay intimate and close at all times. When last have you talked about your lovemaking principles? Sexual intimacy in marriage is for God's glory, surprisingly. And it's helping you to become one flesh. It solidifies the bond because Christ wants a personal relationship with you. He also wants you to have an intimate relationship. He wants you to have an intimate relationship. They go together, they're parallel. And the couple must unite in all areas. In all areas of the sanctuary. Emotional goes with physical. They go together. If your wife says to you, "Oh, I'm too tired tonight," and she says that all the time, "I'm too tired, I'm too tired," trust me, it's more than just being tired. Maybe she's just saying that, or maybe she is tired, but you haven't stimulated up here. This didn't get stimulated throughout the day. And yes, men they can wake up and they'll be like, man, or they're tapping on the wife, you know. And the thing is that if her bucket wasn't filled emotionally, it's harder for her. And that's where the work comes in for the man. The man needs to understand women are different than men. Women need to have their mind connected with you. So we got to think of the other person. And it's not just satisfying in the bedroom, in bed, it's satisfying each other throughout the day from morning. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm just going to give you some examples. What's important during the day is texting. I'm always texting, right? Hey, hun, men to the wife. Hey, hun, just thinking about you, you know, things like that. Hi, sweetie, sweetheart. Is there anything I can get for you? Start thinking of service. How can you be of service? Men have to self-sacrifice because Christ sacrificed. Fill up her emotional needs. Let her feel loved. Let her feel wanted. Love like Christ loves the church. It takes work. And you got to work it. Marriage is work. But the key is you got to fall in love with the work. Because if you don't fall in love with working it, then you're going to have some problems. And women will respond. The wife will respond. She'll be like, hey, hon, hey, babes, whatever nickname you guys have for each other, right? Men take the initiative, right? You're the priest, take the initiative. And just because you dated your wife and you treated her nicely before you were married, and you gave her flowers, you gave her roses, you took her to the park, you took her to the beach, you held her hand, you were gazing each other's eyes, you took her for dinner, none of that stops in marriage. You got to keep pursuing her. That work that you did to get the prize, which is your wife, you got to keep doing that to keep the prize. That's just how it is. It doesn't stop. It's not like, oh, okay, I'm married now. All right. 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, whatever, right? However long it took for you to get married, walk down the aisle. Now I could just cock up my feet and watch the ball game. Right? No. because that just starts, she starts seeing, okay, well, he did all this for me, safe, I feel loved, I feel warm, I'm not getting roses anymore, I'm not getting, you know, right? What happened? And women sense that. So you got to be consistent. Men, you need to be consistent, because women don't have, well, most women, I don't know too many that do have that problem, but women are usually loving and nurturing natured. So that's why Paul didn't say to love your husband. That's easy. But it's harder for the man. He needs to learn how to do that and keep doing that through self-sacrifice, right? Through self-sacrifice. And so you got to keep loving. Men got to keep pursuing her love. It doesn't end after the honeymoon. In fact, that's just the beginning. That's the kickoff, right? And yet might wean off years later, but you got to pursue her or you're going to lose her. Write that phrase down, please. Put it, write it down, put it in the chat. Pursue her or you're gonna lose her. Because Christ pursues us. We're his bride, and he pursues us. He woos us. Every day he's looking to have an intimate conversation, time spent to get into the word. Where's my Bible? I put it down. To get into the word of God, it's time spent. 30 minutes, an hour, it's time spent. That's what she needs, my friend. Time spent. Quality time. It's one of the love languages. And usually the older you get, the more that one is a big one for most older people. So men, you gotta demonstrate that. And you gotta disconnect to reconnect. Disconnect from all the distractions to reconnect. Internet, TV, social media, people, whatever it takes. Okay? Intimacy is into me, I see. Can you see into me? That's what she wants. See into me, hear me, touch me, feel me, right? And that's important. That's important. It's Proverbs. There's a couple of scriptures in Proverbs, but there's a lot in Songs of Solomon. Let her be as a loving hind, a pleasant roe. It's a deer. Let her breast satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. Like, just heavy language. Song of Solomon. I have found the one whom my soul loves. I held him and would not let him go. That's her talking there. Let me give you a few more. It's heavy language. Yes, here it is. I actually printed all these scriptures, love scriptures. Listen to this. If you want to learn how to talk loving, read Song of Solomon together, the whole book, okay? This one I love. It says in all of it's Songs of Solomon. So I'm just going to say chapter 5, verse 12. His eyes are like doves, like streams of water bathed in milk. He says, how beautiful is my love, my sister, my bride. How much better is your love than wine. And then he goes on, my heart captivated. You have captivated my heart, my sister, my bride. You have captivated my heart with one glance with your eyes. Another one, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine. Another one, behold, you are beautiful, my love. Behold, you are beautiful. My eyes are like doves. Let me tell you something. Send her one of these texts in the morning. She'll be like, what? is going on, right? Settle the arguments before you do, because she won't take it. It will be like, right? Settle everything in the morning. Just lavish her, right? This one is good. Many waters cannot quench love. Here's another one. His mouth is so sweet. He's altogether desirable. If his mouth is sweet, she must be tasting his mouth. That's some serious kissing there. Okay. Now, another one. My beloved is mine. I am his. Another one. I am my beloved, and his desire is for me. I like this one. The voice of my beloved. Behold, he comes, leaping over the mountains, bouncing over the hills. She can hear his voice from far away. Ah, here's a good one. Let my beloved in and eat its choicest fruits. Let me tell you something, sweetie. All right. She ain't talking about strawberries. It ain't fruits she talking about. It's a special gift that we women give when we're making love. It is the garden. My beloved is radiant and ruddy. Eat, drink, be drunk with love. This is the kind of poetry language that, even though it's old English, Bible talk language, modernize it. Get acquainted with sweet talk, but mean it. And if it's hard for you because things are rough in your marriage, then you need to go through the self-sacrificing, the forgiveness, open up communication, and then you can have this kind of emotional talk, which is paramount to having love, making love. Because if the emotional is not working, the physical is not going to work. Now, mind you, a woman can have, or even men too, can make love and their soul's not in it. They're just going through the motions. And in the back of their mind, they're wondering, when is this going to be done? Because they're checked out. They're just doing it just to appease you. But they don't really, it's not connecting with them. And women need to be connected. It is so important to feel the love, to feel wanted, needed, appreciated, admired. Because foreplay starts way in the day before it gets to touching, petting, kissing, hugging. Foreplay starts in the morning time, stimulating conversations throughout the day so that your mind is full. And by the time he comes home, honey girl, and it's so important to hold hands in church. I could always tell, I could look around my whole church and I could look at the couples and I can tell who's not who's really good, who's really close, because they sit together nice snugly and they're holding hands, or they have this there's this aura about them. It's just yeah, it's right. And then there's some couples are stiff. There's space between them, and some of them don't even sit together and you never see them together. One's always busy doing something, right? Let me tell you something. The ministry starts at home. When you are so busy in church that you don't have time for your marriage, that's a sin. That's a sin. Because it starts at home. That is your first ministry. And you need to get that right before you busy up yourself doing the Lord's work. Now, can you do the Lord's work? Absolutely, anytime you want. But don't let that replace what you need to fix at home, because a lot of times people just get overly busy because they do not want to address the problems at home. So let me just do more church work. Let me just pick up a couple more positions at church. So now you're like 3, 4 positions at church, right? When really and truly, one position is enough. There's plenty of people at church. You don't need to have 3, 4 positions. Yeah, they say, oh, well, 20% of the people do the work and 80% of the people don't. But, I beg to differ. There's ways around that. And if your marriage is needs fixing, it's on the rocks, this is a time for you to tell your church, you know what? I need a sabbatical. I need someone to replace me. Or I need an assistant to step up and do more work. Whatever it takes, you need to get this marriage working right. And I just had to stop and pause and say that. Get that marriage working right.
Hey there, just a quick commercial break before we go into part two. And I just want to tell you this is the last book of the 4-part series and of the 4 books. This one is for single Christians, soul searching questions for you, 365. Now, the fascinating thing about this is that this is going to really get deep into yourself. And then you're going to find out things about you that you didn't know or maybe suppressed or in your subconscious. Let's get to know ourselves. Let's have a more personal development happening in our lives. All right. The good thing about this book is that you can actually buy the download or the paperback on Amazon, and you could also buy one of these 3. So, because you're a single person that you need to develop while you're in a relationship, you could be in a marriage and develop yourself. You could be dating and develop yourself, or you could be engaged and develop yourself. So you can buy 2. That's not a problem. Or you can buy one for you and give one away as a gift. Now, the exciting part is I just want to show you a few things in this book so that you get an idea of what's going on. And we start off with a quote. I have scriptures. They're fused throughout the whole thing. And then we have a lot of every book. I start off with how to use this book and a couple tidbits. There's 3 questions on most of the sections. Sometimes there's 2, and it might end up with 1. And you can fill in the blanks or just answer the questions throughout the day. Let's take a look at the table of contents so that we can get an idea of what's in this book so that you know what you're buying, okay? All right, so we start off with my identity. Who are you? And then the next part is who am I? My character, my life vision, my favorites, my mind, my friendships, my childhood. These are all questions that you're going to be asking about yourself. My family then. Okay, my work life, my habits, my health, my finance, recreation and social, my adventures, challenges, loving God questions, loving yourself questions, boundaries questions, loving other questions. And then we're going to talk about my home. What is your home life? And then we end off with my creative life, my quality of life. Who should I date? My passions, my growth, my reflections, and then I end off with a few tidbits. All right, so there you have it, power packed, full, chocked full of stuff for you to peruse and go through. Hey, you don't have to do 1 question a day for 365. You can actually do 2 questions a day and get it done in 6 months. However you want to do it, pick up your copy today. You don't want to miss. All right, let's go on with the rest of this program.
Inside the most holy place is where your marriage is working real good. Why? Because the Ark Covenant has of things inside the ark, and those pieces actually represent the pieces outside the ark. For example, the furniture, altar of sacrifice, It represents self-sacrificing love, which I talked about, but it also represents the 10 commandments, the law, which is the law of love, and you're obedient to that law. It reflects who you are. And a lot of self-sacrificing actions are reflections of the mirror that you see, which is your spouse. Your spouse is like a mirror showing you yourself. And so the law is like a mirror showing you yourself, your flaws and all, right? The laver representing forgiveness. But inside the ark, mercy and forgiveness are like buddies, because God is merciful and he's so willing to forgive. And so he extends his mercy and his grace for you and for me over and over again. The table of showbread represents the bread of heaven, communication with God, but it also represents the bread, the manna that was in the ark, the golden pot of manna. Constant communication. Every day that manna was falling except Sabbath. There was a double portion on Friday. Every day, communication. The altar of incense, it represents prayer, the sweet aroma. It's intimate. That prayer is that one-on-one closeness, conversation with God. God is hearing your prayers, answering your prayers. It also represents the golden censer inside the ark. And then lastly, the candlestick, Aaron's rod, remember that? It budded and it stayed budded. Well, when you look at the actual candlestick of the tabernacle, you'll notice that the stems actually had buds, almond buds, which represents Aaron's rod, which was budded with the almonds and the flour. So it has engraved flowers on it. God is very strategic and very deep. The more you study, the more you learn. I found a whole nother thing on the furniture pieces that will blow your mind, and I'll have to do that another session. But everything in the ark represents everything outside the ark, because this is important, because when you're in the most holy place, everything is working. You're self-sacrificing, you're forgiving, you're having communication, you're intimate, the flames are sparking, making love is such a desire, it's such a breeze, it's such a want, it's a willing, you're feeling full mentally, physically, it's sacred. And that is where we need to get to desperately. But a lot of women check out sexually, where things aren't going right in their relationship. He's not, treating me the way I expected or talking to me the way I expected. Emotionally, we're checked out. Communication is strained. We're not self-sacrificing. We're not forgiving. Whatever is going on in the relationship. And then he wants to make love and you're like, not tonight. I'm not having it, right? And so a lot of women withhold sex from their husbands, and because the relationship is strained at some point, and then that causes more breakdown. Okay, that causes more breakdown. It's a very hard, it's not a cookie cutter answer. It's not like, oh, give it to him anyways. No, men need to understand why you checked out, why you are not willing, right? And so they need to understand, hun, these are the reasons why I don't feel like doing it tonight. It's because of this. It's because of this. It's because of this. Can we work on these issues, or, you know, work on restoring these things that we used to do, so that I want to give it to you, so we can have romance, so we can make love, and I'm not upset at you, or I'm not, you know, checked out, or, I'm can't wait for you to finish, because it's supposed to be an enjoyable experience for the two of you. It's not just for him whenever he wants it, right? Both parties need to be entwined in love and on point emotionally. So you got to tell him or her, because it's either or, these things need to be worked out. If you want to continue to make love to me, we got to work these things out. And this is very paramount in order for a relationship to continue to keep thriving. Okay. And do it in a way that you're not attacking the other person. And I talked about that in previous videos. So I just wanted to mention that, because that happens a lot. Men say, "Oh, well, I'm not getting it anymore," right? She doesn't want to talk to me, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe he checked out, right? And when there's a breakdown, that's where a lot of cheating takes place, because a need is not being met in the marriage. So they're going to find that need in somebody else. Or somebody starts batting their eye and gives them the attention that they're starving, that they weren't getting in their marriage, whether it's a female or a male, right? So, and remember, Satan wants to kill, steal, and destroy your marriage. So he'll do anything he can in the marriage, and then he'll give you temptations outside the marriage to further break it down. Either way, it's a disaster. We got to protect our marriages. We need to be praying together on a regular basis. We need to do all pieces of the altar. Go listen to the other 3 recordings. Get that from the leader. She has all the recordings. I break everything down from the beginning right up to now. And it's so important that these things, in order to stay happy and healthy and have hot, holy love making, you got to get rid of the stuff that's holding you back. Okay. And that's very important, because a lot of women will hold sex, and when they're withholding sex because they're not getting what their needs met, especially emotionally, and it can go way back to self-sacrificing, then it starts to break down the marriage. And then men start looking elsewhere. um, Now, men could also withhold it as well. So it can go both ways, but it's usually the women. What's important, though, is that anytime there's a problem, nip it in the butt as quickly as possible. Don't let it fester. Don't let it boil up. Don't have a volcano experience because you didn't talk about it. You didn't say anything. You kept it in the back burner. And then it keeps happening over and over. And then you just explode, right? Or you just talk out in anger. Or you're like, why do you always? No, 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 no. Deal with it right from the start, honey. That's why communication is important. Every night you go to bed, honey, when you did this, this is how I felt. It would be nice. Is there any way you can do it differently? Is there any way you could try this and say, talk soft tones, nice tones, so that it comes out loving. The suggestions come out loving, and everything is in check. Wow, time has gone so fast. I wish I had all the time in the world. But I will say this to close: you got to work it in order for it to work. And get in love, fall in love with the work. Okay? Fall in love with the work. the work of how to make love work. It's a full-time job. You got to be consistent. It's daily. Sacrifice at the altar, that's daily. The labor of forgiveness, that's daily. Communication with at the bread, that's daily. Lighting the candlestick, that was lit 24/7. The altar of incense, that was lit 24/7. Every one of these pieces is an everyday work, all five of them. And the gate, which is the heart to Jesus, you got to enter in order to get all these pieces. You can't enter in the sanctuary unless you come through the gate. So every time you come through the gate, it's always Jesus first. And I just wanted to let you know that if you want some hot, holy sex or hot, holy lovemaking, all pieces need to work so that your marriage is at the pinnacle, which is the art of the covenant. And I will close with that.
Okay, so there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the series. I hope you enjoyed this video. Watch all four of the series, Perfecting Your Marriage Through the Sanctuary. And why not pick up a copy, a download, or a paperback? Now, of course, I printed my download just so that you can see it, but you don't have to print the download. Just download it and read it on your laptop or computer or your cell phone. So there's four of them. You can pick one of any of the four: married, engaged, dating, or single, or you can pick up two and give one away as a gift. In fact, some people are actually buying one for themselves and one in one of the three. For example, they'll buy the single one for themselves, which is soul searching, and they will buy another one in the period that they're in. So maybe they're engaged, but they still want to do soul searching on themselves. You can do both books at the same time, one for yourself and one for the partner that you're with. You could be married and still have a single book on your own. You could be dating and still have a single book on your own. So you can actually do two books downloads at the same time. Well, I hope you were blessed. I hope you enjoyed this series. Pass it on to someone, share, like, and definitely engage in the next videos that we have. After this series, there is another series on relationships, which is Heal My Relationships. You don't want to miss that one. That is a 5-part series that is also exciting as well. Well, you take care, and we'll see you soon. God bless.